Good afternoon.
Hello.
This is call and response. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Oh, everybody's awake. Thank you. I'm Antonio Horn, and today I have the pleasure of introducing our Murphy guest director, who will be giving her director's talk today. So, most of you know Marti Gobel is our Murphy guest director. She hails from San Diego. Marti is an actor, writer, arts educator, producer, among other things, playwright. It's a blessing to have her here. We're happy to hear what she has to say today about this really intriguing and interesting play that has been selected. So without further ado, let's welcome Marti Gobel.
Oh, hello everybody.
Hello.
Still call and response, right? So, Tony shared a little bit about me, and I'll jump into more detail of my journey as a theater artist and how I got here. But I do want to start with just a couple of stories that will really define where I come from, where I've been, and how I ended up standing in front of you here today. So, in November of 1976, a mother took her young child to a play at the Copley Theater in San Diego, California. And the mother was single. She had 3 children. And that child that she took to the theater was her eldest daughter, who at that time was about to be 7. And we were late, and we ran, and we ran, and we ran, and we got to the theater, and we were in this lobby with all this velvet, and things hanging from the ceiling and chandeliers and people dressed in their finery. And we climbed, and we climbed, and we climbed, all the way to the very, very top of this huge, massive theater. And I saw my first play, which was The Wiz, which was on tour. I know now that my mother had known. And she felt that it was extremely important for me to experience this play. So it wasn't only the purchasing of the tickets, and I know how high we were, that they were the cheapest seats that she could purchase. It was also that she had to pay for care and arrange care for my younger siblings. She bought me 1 box of juniors, and I was amazed. Jump forward to 1984, again, this same phenomenal, my mother is an educator, a brilliant one, to the point that A&E did a special on her called Uncommon Americans, because she was uncommon. And she would take me to the Old Globe Theater, and her habit with songs, with plays, with things that she'd given me to read. My mother handed me my first copy of Jane Eyre when I was 9. And told me, if you have any questions, come and ask me. But if you don't know the words, look them up. So when she would take me to these things, these productions, all contemporary plays, but a lot of Shakespeare, she would whisper to me what was happening. That's the king, and his father is sick, and his father thinks that it's his fault that he's dying and that he's stealing the crown. And then go through the play like this. At the end, she would always take me out for a snack, and I would talk about what I saw with her. In 1984, when I was sitting there, she was whispering what was happening in Henry V. And I realized I did not need her to do that for me anymore. And I told her, Mom, stop talking to me. I'm watching. And she went, okay. And this is how my mother is. Those were my first 2 huge experiences with theater, and they have stayed with me all of these years. Not the experience in and of itself, but the fact that my mother felt it was important for me to see that kind of storytelling, and she made it happen by any means necessary. So, as you know, my name is Marti Gobel, and again, I was that girl. And today, I am an actor, a director, a teaching artist, a producer, and a playwright. The course of my career has afforded me the opportunity to participate in all levels of theater execution and production, at the highest levels. And as artistic director of the now defunct Uprooted Theater, which was a theater that I co-founded, it was my responsibility to select a full season of works that not only answered to the species' innate desire to gather, but also to choose plays that were a reflection of humanity's current societal issues, concerns, failures, and triumphs. I kept a laser focus on representing through the arts a myriad of cultures and underrepresented groups. To that end, I commissioned and produced several world premieres penned by playwrights who have gone on to shine in the larger industry pool. I have worked with several companies nationally and internationally to develop their seasons through my literary efforts. I have served on countless boards and panels to maintain the health of the theater industry as a whole. I was given the opportunity to study at the J.F. Kennedy Center for the Arts in Washington, D.C., where I worked with a group of artists from several disciplines as we worked to fine-tune our offerings for education specifically. And this was in the area of residency and lesson planning. Over the course of several months, I worked with master teaching artist Randy Gerber to develop several programs using theater as the springboard on a host of subjects, from social studies to mathematics. I am currently an adjunct professor at several universities and a community liaison for just as many mid-level theaters. All of this, and I do mean all of this, can be reduced to one simple fact. I am a storyteller. That's it. When people ask me what I do, I can give them a list of things, just as I've done for you. But I hope the takeaway is that I really am just simply a storyteller and a lover of stories. I have made it my life's work to tirelessly embrace and share those stories that talk about where we come from, as well as what we might yet become, making it our shared history and a new history, while constantly searching for those stories that are capable of measuring the distances that we have traveled. I love story-driven plays. The plays that I love range from playwrights of color, playwrights of the past, plays that were written in recent times, and also the plays that are being penned right now. I am passionate about theater and the game-changing nature of storytelling, which empowers all of us to imagine better, bolder versions of ourselves and the narratives that we shape in the lives that we live. Yes, I am a storyteller. Several weeks ago, I began marinating on exactly what I wanted to share with you today. And in one of my quiet moments, it occurred to me that really was that I didn't want to just share the how of theater, but the why of theater. What is it about our human selves that drives us to share our stories? And people will say, oh, I can't do what you do. And I go, yes, you can. Has anybody ever asked you what happened in your day? Oh, yeah, I almost got into a car accident. I was like, bing, bing. And I rolled down my window and I was yelling out the window. You are storytelling. With your full body and your full memory, charged by the leavings or the echoes of your emotions that you had in that experience when it was happening for you. We do this every day, all the time, every single one of us. And I wish that more people would recognize their natural gift for telling stories. But I wanted to know, why do we not only tell stories, why do we retell stories? I don't know what that means. And I began to look at some communities that I have worked with, and I think that different groups, cultures, subcultures, individuals tell stories for different reasons. My mother, whom I told you about, is again a brilliant, brilliant woman who is now in the throes of dementia. She tells stories to remind herself what she remembers. Children tell stories because make-believe is fun. Many, many, many cultures tell stories to teach the entire community in a collective learning experience. And just as many communities tell stories to trace their ancestral lines and to remind them of the souls that they stand on. One of my favorite sayings is, and this is in regards to the African American population and myself as a woman, that I am my ancestors' greatest triumph. If I am here, I stand on the backs of their souls, their survival, and the stories they told. I don't know how to make sweet potato pie because I ever read a recipe. I know how to make sweet potato pie because my grandfather taught me. And while he was teaching, he talked about growing up on the farm in South Carolina. Have you ever heard of Sumter Hill in South Carolina? My grandmother is Evelina Sumter. I'm descendants of the Sumter's Hill. And those stories from that area and them growing up in that way have led me to a deep understanding and appreciation of how they were training me to become the woman I am today through the stories that they told about the struggles that they lived through their lives. I have experienced storytelling for the simple purpose and the joy found in call and response. Just as Tony just did with you, you all giggled, but then you responded. And then you relearned and remembered when I asked you the same question. I found when I did my travels in Africa that this is a phenomenon that happens. And their storytelling is a little bit different, totally based in call and response, but also meant to amuse and to forget what is happening in some of the townships. I specifically spent a lot of time in South Africa. All of these reasons for storytelling require collaboration, enthusiasm, challenge, group support, and all offer some form, no matter how big or small the amount, a degree of transformation. I find transformation in the making of theater, no matter what my role is. Or, to put it even more simply, I find transformation in and through storytelling. But I can find that dramatic change of self, that very shift in the landscape of me through rock and roll. I love rock and roll. I love rock and roll. I married a musician. He got me on the second date because I said, can you play the bass line of any song from the Rumors album? Completely no. He was like, yeah. Pulled out his double bass. Boom, 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 boom. And I was sunk. It's been 29 years. Oh, man. I have spent many hours in the world of rock and roll. At home, at concerts, in my car, while in the shower, sometimes in my own head when I just can't quit humming that one tune. I am currently obsessed with 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon. I don't know why, it's just so beautiful. I was talking to my cast about it the other day. It's so simple. Great storytelling, speech, jams you up, calms you down. I'm talking about a bit more of a hyped up rock and roll, but that tune has been running through my head. Or maybe it's just a day with an ever so slight bang of my head because the right song for that day has stirred courage in me, or strength, sometimes sorrow. Pearl Jam, Led Zeppelin, Joe Walsh, The Doors, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Hendrix, Mother Love Bone, Soundgarden, Aerosmith, the Allman Brothers, Journey, Pink Floyd, Queen, the old school Van Halen, Rush, Boston, Supertramp, Heart, Joan Jett, Ted Nugent, System of a Down, ZZ Top, Guns N' Roses, Lenny Kravitz, Sublime, Eric Clapton, and Chicago's 25 or 624 goes hard. So when I was given a working draft of Airness by Chelsea Marcantel in 2017, I knew that someday I had to direct this play, to tell the story of the underrepresented group of professional air guitar competitors. I was not only drawn to the rock and roll, but to the very need for the pursuit of abandon that this play requires. Our world is so full of contradictions, micro confusions that we don't even know we're swimming through. The first thing most babies do when they are born is to cry. And the first thing most adults say to them is that oft-used sound, shh. Contradictions. We encourage children to walk, and in a very short amount of time, we put them in education systems that require them to sit for hours at a time. We encourage children to play, but that play comes with a web of rules and ways of social conduct. We encourage children to look at the world around them, but shame them when they stare at someone out of pure curiosity. I cannot tell you how many times I have been standing in a line and turned around because some random child had their hands in my hair. Curiosity. But the play, Airness, tells the story of a group of individuals who march towards the free fall of rock and roll and seek to lose themselves in the sound despite the micro-confusions they have been ruled by. Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll is not my favorite song, but I can't resist it. I will sing it when it comes on, and if I can, I will air guitar to it when I hear it. And I love that you can tell that this band listened to Chuck Berry with that song, the father of rock and roll. So, I want you to ask yourself, what are those songs to you? We'll come back around. I want you to ask yourself, what song makes you move in a way that is outside of control? What I do as a director is I give my actors the shape of the story they are telling, the skeleton, if you will. But then there comes a point where they have to shade that shape. And they have to add the meat of the character on top of the skeleton that I have given, and I cannot teach them that. There comes a point when they must create the muscle of the character for themselves and in the context of their fellow thespians. There comes a point when I can do no more but than to watch them walk to the ultimate abandon of storytelling. I cannot teach that. It must be back. In the play, Dee Vicious loses the ability to seek abandon. Facebender, Shreddy Eddie, Golden Thunder, and Cannibal cling to this ability, and Nina must return to her child self to find this ability that lives inside her, aching to emerge. I love this story for what it encourages in us as human beings. And that is abandon. Abandon that finds its heart in joy. Technically, I began crafting a play in this way. I read the script many, many times. I read the script for each character, tracking their emotional journey. I research. I look up anything that I don't have a full grasp on. I begin blocking pulse points of interlacing circles. And what I mean by this is, if you could see my brain, it works like this. And that's how I tend to direct. So my actors could tell you, any actor that I've worked with goes, she's always going to tell you to complete the circle. Don't turn back on the circle. Start a new circle. Tighten the circle. You're in the center of the circle. Stay on the edge of the circle. Make a circle around the one who's speaking. Circles, circles, circles. That's how I think, and that's how I block my shows. I am one of the rare directors that comes in with a play mostly directed, not at the university level, at the professional level. And what you find is that directors, I have found as an actor, that when I walk into the room, the director is not burdened with teaching anything, typically. So they walk into the room going, let's see what's gonna happen. That is not the case in university theater, and I like staying here because it helps me to understand what's happening as folks move forward and where they lose or gain particular confidence or even frailties within their actor selves. But what I do is I start at the top and I move through and I know I want to see this picture. It might not happen until page 7. And then the next picture that I get may not occur to me until page 15. What I do in the room is have the actors help me get from 1 to 7. And then from 7 to 15. But I know where we're going and the image that I want to see or the story that I want to tell physically and vocally during the process of blocking a play. I begin meeting with the designers and hearing their ideas. This often happens up to, I know my next 6 shows. So I'm already in conversation with designers for up and coming things. I'm actually right now casting a show via Zoom. It's a mess. But, so I know what the designers are likely thinking about and where they're going. I have rules for my designers, not so much at the university level, but definitely at the professional level. And that rule is you can never tell me no. You can tell me I have 3 other ideas. Or you can tell me this would be hard to accomplish, but maybe we can do this, this, and this, and this. And all of my designers are aware that this is how I work. It works fabulously. I'm giving them room and agency and license over their particular department with my, of course, approval. When you're directing at the professional level, the artistic director is literally making you the CEO of his production. And the entire company is at your disposal. All of those designers, the people that they brought in, the people behind the desk, people doing marketing, publicity, the ushers, are under your care. And that is what the artistic director is counting on you to do and handle it. And it's a lot of pressure, but it's a lot of fun. I have met some of the most amazing people and made some lifelong friends as designers. Many of you may not know, let's see, my second professional show ever, I was costumed by a very young Holly Payne. I think Tony saw that show.
I did.
We've been friends for a very long time and have worked as colleagues in this arena for a very long time. When I get into the room, well, let me back up. I have to cast it. I cast a little differently than a lot of people. I'm looking for the actor that can always come back to themselves. So I usually am not trying to make someone do something that they wouldn't normally do. They wouldn't be in the role if I hadn't seen them do something close to it or spot on it. And that means physically moving, their vocal pattern, how they speak. Sometimes I hear people and I go, I can't fix that vocal pattern. And so they don't get cast. Often it has nothing to do with skill. Sometimes I just can't cast someone because they're too tall. Or they're too short. Or they don't look the way that I think that this character needs to represent on stage. But when I cast, if you are ever in any of my plays, it's because you already naturally did something that I could attach to one of the characters. Sometimes I make mistakes. There's I won't use his name, but there's a really well-known actor out there who I spent a summer in Door County with Door County Shakespeare. And he was playing one of the mechanicals. I was Titania, and what's the woman's name? Who does Hippolyta, thank you. Hippolyta and Titania. And I got to see him work, and I knew that I was going to be directing a show. And I talked to him about it, and I said, would you like to come in and read for me? And he said, yeah, but this isn't the kind of play that I do. I said, yeah, I know, this is how you perform, but I've been hanging out with you for 15 weeks, and the you, the real you, is this guy. I just need you to be the real you with these words. And he couldn't do it. He just kept performing. I kept trying to sand it down. He would creep back. Very performance and large and musical theater and slapstick comedy, and this was not that play. That was a mistake, and that's one that I probably will make again, but I always go back to making sure that the person can find themselves in the piece. I am a method actor and I'm a method director, so I talk to you about emotions, which is odd. One of your last Murphy artists was Angelique Iannone. She was my major professor. She taught me everything that I know about the technical approach to theater, to the point where she told me, stop taking my classes, I can't teach you anymore. I was that student that would go in and she'd go, everybody has 3 monologues due today to workshop, and I get up and go, I have 7. She'd go, all right, cowboy up everybody, here we go. And that's what would happen. That's one kind of director, technical, on the language. That's not me. I'm like, how do you feel? Those of you that have talked to me outside of class or outside of rehearsal here, if you notice, I always take it back to the play. Oh, you're angry today? Well, use it in that scene. You can tap on that. Are you feeling a little down today? Well, let's see what happens when you're so tired that nothing I can get from you is anything but truth. Let's see what happens. That's how I cast. And then I get in the room and I make preliminary decisions based on the work that my actors have done before they got in the room. Hopefully they've read the play. Hopefully they have some general idea of how they're going to navigate the character. And usually they come in and make a stab at those things. In the room, I am that director that will tell you exactly what to do. But I don't tell you how to do it. I will tell you, move stage left and hit that table by here, but I am not micromanaging how you walk to that table. Some of my actors are starting to figure out, oh, she's not going to say anything if I do this. Because it's not breaking anything that I asked them to do. It's them putting something on top of what I've asked them to do. And I love it when it happens. I encourage my actors to fail boldly. If I don't like it, I'll tell you. But it may be great. And it might be something I never even thought. At a point, I go away. And I tell them to forget everything that I took. But to tell the story. We are storytellers. Creatively, when I am directing, I approach the task of directing much the same way as I would when preparing a meal. Careful prep work, the laying out of all my ingredients, seasoning and spicing, making sure that I have the perfect temperature, until I have an end result that is something I want to digest, that looks and tastes great to me. So when you come see Airness, you're seeing the play I want to see. I am not creating plays. Never have I created plays to please an audience. How can I do that? I don't know where you came from that day. I don't know what headspace you're in that day. I don't know if you need to be entertained. And all of this is happening in often upwards of 100 people. But I do know what I like. And I do know what I want to see. And I know in the rehearsal process when I get bored or when a joke falls flat. So I adjust the seasoning and the spices in the rehearsal hall. Again, in keeping with this analogy, I can tell you that trying to cook for somebody else's palate, the dish will never be quite right. But you can make it perfect for your palate. When I cook or create or direct to my taste, I want to share what I have made. And this is a winning recipe. The same applies to the production of the making of theater. And this is any play, with any level artist, be they emerging or professional. I work with kindergartners, and I work with a group of 90-year-olds right now. And they get the same experience from me that the cast and crew are getting right now. I also not only look at the words of a piece with a careful eye, seeking to understand why a playwright chose particular words, but I often read the playwright's entire canon in an effort to get inside their brain. Now, one of the courses that I teach is Multicultural Playwrights. We read 15 plays in 15 weeks, and we coast through all different kinds of cultures. And every time, theater majors, 15 plays, I have to remind them, you like plays! You have to read them. How are you going to get a degree in theater if you're complaining about reading plays? And read them on your own. Know what you like. You might be a playwright and don't know it yet. You might be a director and don't know it yet. You might want to get entirely out of the game and realize I don't need to be in the room, but I sure do like theater management. You can't come to that without reading and reading and reading and reading over and over and over again plays on plays from Aeschylus to Morisot and everything in between. I am a voracious reader. And when I'm not writing a play, which I am currently doing now, thank you, Murphy, I read usually 3 or 4 plays a day. A day. I love them. I love the stories. And if this is a daunting task for you, those of you that are thinking of going into the theater, you better get out the game now. Because the plays keep coming and keep being reimagined, retold. The stories keep being retold. And new stories are being created. When you read a lot of playwrights, and particularly when you focus on a single playwright, rhythms emerge. And the key to the playwright's mind emerges. Lucas Nape is a lean of word playwright. And he is always even-handed in presenting his play's central themes. Dominique Morceau is rhythm-driven. And the prolific playwright, August Wilson, found his inspiration in jazz and blues. Jen Silverman has a fondness of ellipses, and they mean different things. Tennessee Williams is female-focused, and his characters are always penned with an aching element of fragility. Lauren Gunderson is punny and witty, and she embeds her text with such smart humor. I had a very interesting conversation with Lynn Nottage when she was here. We were upstairs together, and we had a very late night, and we talked about all things great and small. And I have read the entirety of her canon except for one play. I have performed Lily in Crumbs at the Table of Joy twice, and I have also directed it. And she said, people always mess up that play. And I said, I know why. They autocorrect it. Because she's written in a Southern dialect, but she's not from the South. So it's not correct to the ear. And so your brain automatically starts to switch it, to correct what would be King's English or Standard English. And she said, well, what did you do? I said, I really looked at why you wrote it this way. And then every time I got to the part where I was going to autocorrect, I would slow the voice down.
Mm.
And she said, that's Lily. You can't be in the business of making theater without really understanding what the playwright is trying to do and the reasons that they may have chosen the words that they chose. When I write plays, I'm very intentional. And it would make me upset to have somebody change a word because they thought it was better. No, it's not better. That's not what I wrote. Not what I wrote. That's not my recipe. Write your own play if you want to do that. So when you get into the text and you start memorizing plays, you also get to understand the playwright, but you are also training yourself to respect playwrights. And that's very important. My creative process involves a great deal of patience. With fingers crossed, I count on the whole team to eventually tip over into performance ready. Sometimes this doesn't happen until after the show opens. But each show requires a leap of faith from me. I must believe that my team will get there. And I must expect that my team will get there. And I'm continually, pleasantly surprised when it happens. Lastly, and I think this is the most important when it comes to raising plays, I go to the theater. All. Shakespeare, musicals, contemporary, classical. I go. And then I talk about what I saw. I debate with my friends and colleagues on what worked, what failed, what moved me or what bored me. What was the point of the piece? Sometimes the play was just simply for sheer entertainment. And that's okay too. Those of you out there who are not involved in the theater industry, I encourage you to see plays too. Theater is a reflection of society, a safe place to approach a myriad of topics and experiences, to laugh, to cry, to be still, and in the case of Airness, to rock out. That's what I got. So I'd love to open the floor if you have any questions on any.
And let me throw this too. I know some of you have places you have to be. You will not hurt our feelings if you have to get up and go, so don't be timid about it. But if you do need to go, please keep an eye on your watch. So let's open back up to questions.
Yeah, anybody want any questions, comments, points of clarification? I'll give you a second. Yeah.
Okay, let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know, especially since you're working on writing a play right now, what is your approach when you're writing something? Where do you start? What is usually what inspires you to get started? How do you take it to a finished point? Just what does that process look like for you?
I have 4 children and a husband. Until recently, they were all home and 2 big dogs. And usually, and my house is very chaotic. And usually, when there's something that gets us all together in one room talking about something, I can mine for that. So I use my children and my husband and my extended family for inspiration. I also I gave myself the challenge of, I have read every Shakespeare play out there. You know, some will debate how many of those there are. I'm going to say 32. And I don't like them all. And the worst play of Shakespeare's is Timon of Athens. Jesus, that's a hot mess. And so I decided I would take Timon of Athens and try to modernize it and call it Tim. and Tim runs Athens Records. So that's how that one started, just trying to improve Shakespeare, because that's my ego right there. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yes, any other question?
Kind of the same vein, I'll ask the same thing I asked Lynn Nottage. What's your relationship with writing like when you're writing? Are you regimented? Do you have a schedule? Do you do it in all your free time, or is it just kind of as it comes, as you find inspiration?
I do some things to keep myself healthy, so I work out every morning, and then I see how I feel or what I have to accomplish. I'm usually juggling like 5 or 6 jobs at once. And then I write until I have to do something else. But I like writing, so it's fun. It's not like a task for me. And this is all I do, is theater. So there's plenty of time. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I have an idea and I want to write, then I'll write then too. I met a lovely security guard at 3 o'clock in the morning last week. So it's not regimented, I just want to do it, so I get back to it as quickly as I can. Yeah, I wrote this morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't have a lot of experience in theater, but I'm doing something, a big production at the end of the semester, and how do you handle people that, how do you communicate your passion and get other people inspired when they don't seem like they're going to?
Like this. Yeah. I try not to waste people's time, so I'm not really one to recommend shows unless I get blown away. And my job is the only job where like I ask my friends and family to come to the office with me every 8 weeks. Like there's no other job like that. So I try not to make people come see my work all the time if they're interested. And recently my sister didn't watch a one-woman show that I worked really hard on. She just never got around to it, but I knew she watched like all of Queen Sugar, and I was like, yeah. So I don't know how to answer that. It depends. Usually it's if I love something. And if I'm directing it, I love it, because I'm telling you I'm making something that I want to see. Yeah, that's helpful.
So you were saying you cast based off of if a person shows some similarity with the character or like brings home something from the character. So if there's like an incredibly versatile actor that auditions, is it more difficult to cast them, or is it like, oh, they show something that the character has?
It's not that, let me just clarify, it's not that they have to be the character, it's that I have to be able to see them in the character with their particular personality. So, and I've worked with some really, really, really great actors. And if they blow me away, but I don't have a role for them, I make it a point to tell them, you were amazing. This is just not the play for you. I will not forget about you. And I don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah, what's interesting what you said about abandon, and how, I wonder how you direct toward a moment of abandon that that happens on stage, and then you feel this was genuine, or at least that you find it persuasive as an expression of that. And I guess I want to extend that question, because I think abandon, I love that term as something that I would love to learn how to teach. And I say that as a teacher of writing, not creative writing, but expository writing, which is that's just a category, not necessarily, not that one writing is more creative than the other. But a lot of the times, a lot of the goal of writing courses that I've seen is about mastery of writing. And I feel like aiming for mastery gives the wrong idea about where, if necessary, to let go, where there are things that are outside of our control. And I don't think we teach that, and maybe it's just me, but I don't think we teach how to let go of control as much as we teach about how to gain some sort of control. So I wonder, so there's two questions, I guess. Like, how do you direct toward that moment of abandon? And do you think you can teach abandon as something greater, as a practice of knowing this is where my control is and this is where something else where I need to let go and just, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I can't teach abandon, but I can point actors in the direction. And I know what it looks like when I see it. So I'm often saying in this particular rehearsal process, more. If you think you're doing 5, give me 10. If you think you're doing 10, give me 20. I will tell you if it's too big. Abandon comes with comfort in yourself and the drive to move forward. So my actors now have to get off book totally and know where they're going in the story and be driving towards it. And I would liken it to when a child is learning to write, often those P's are backwards, often those, S's go the wrong way or something's flipped, and you just keep teaching them to erase it and practice it, and then pretty soon it gets hardwired to write in the right direction. So in terms of Airness, they have to listen to the songs. I mean, I know them all, but they don't. I don't know when my favorite music became classic rock and roll. But I can only keep running it till they forget themselves. I think have them keep writing until they forget themselves. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask a little about the play. Obviously, you have a great passion for it, and we're all excited about it. The cast is excited, the crew, everybody's excited to see what this is, because I had not heard of it until you presented it to us. And I know you're directing for what you like, but can you give us just some hints as to what else besides the rock and the abandon has drawn you to this play, and what might we be in for without giving anything away?
Just some really great music, some people that have decided to come together outside of their lives, and they gather and they move around and they compete in these air guitar competitions. There's always sex, drugs, and rock and roll in any play about rock and roll. So there's some elements of that. You see them compete and go through a series of competitions to get to the nationals. Yeah, that's about what I can.
Where do you see you in the play?
What play would I?
Where do you see you as a human being? Why does this play draw you other than just the rock and roll? Where do you see you as a human in the theme and the work and the energy? Where do you see you in the play?
I really resonate with Cannibal Queen. She seems grumpy and direct, and also just has a love of this game, and is a master at her craft, and also finds joy in, for lack of a better word, dumbing down what she does. The character Cannibal Queen has a master's in classical guitar, but she competes in air guitar competitions without a real guitar. So there's that. But this is an important thing about theater professionals. I don't love every play. This is my job. This is how I keep the lights on. I love it for the 8 weeks I'm under contract, but then I gotta roll out. There are some plays I think are terrible, and somebody goes, well, would you like to come in? Can we blah, blah, blah? And if I am literally unemployed every 8 weeks. And if I don't have another show, I don't even have to like the play. I'll come and make myself like it and try to make it better. I'm a little bit more careful with the acting roles that I take because it requires a different energy from me. But don't get it twisted. This is my job. This is my job. I am here working. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Well, Holly, I didn't even know that was you. I told you about you.
Thanks for shouting.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so you remember.
I do.
I was very green and nervous.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was different people. We were different people.
We were different people. Yeah. Anybody else? If that's it, we could,
Have snacks.
have snacks.
We can have snacks and talk.
Yeah,
We'll
I'm here.
have snacks, too.
I'm right here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.